Hi, Atem. It's Mark Auslander. I know you're traveling now, but back in East Africa. But I've been thinking about your fascinating painting, which you showed us temporarily during your opening last Tuesday. It's a painting of rape in Darfur. It's one of the most powerful images you've developed. It grapples, to my mind, it's really the first time that I know of a Southern Sudanese artist really grappling in such a potent way with the problem of rape. And I was curious about the figure of the woman. There's a lot of male energy, of course, in the piece, and then all eyes, all lines of sight, the gun itself direct us to the body of the semi-clothed woman who is being forced to disrobe immediately prior to sexual assault, presumably. Of course, a very powerful image. And I was wondering what you were asking, in effect, the body of the woman to bear, what she's signifying. Um, Obviously, she's a specific woman who's being assaulted, and in a broader sense, she stands for the thousands of women in Darfur and, of course, in southern Sudan whose bodies became battlegrounds, who were victims of rape as an instrumentality of war. But in a broader sense, do you see her as standing for the entire region and peoples of Darfur, or in a sense for the people even of Sudan itself, who have all been assaulted, as it were, by the enormity of oppression by the Khartoum-based regime? Is that your reading, in a sense? Is that a legitimate reading? Uh, Women in so much, of course, of colonial, post-colonial literature are often asked to bear that burden of representation, of being those, of sort of standing for an entirety of a people. And I'm wondering if you find that a sort of a useful trope, a useful strategy, because it's so interesting that in the piece that's immediately next to it, your longer term installation, the metal tree of life, in which one sees, as it were, gets a sense of the faces of war, and again, a sort of overall representational, well, evocative strategy for somehow calling up the spirits of those who are uh, who are no longer here, who are victims of war. There, you seem to engage in something closer to what Julian Bonder terms an ethics of deferral, as such a refusal to precisely represent anybody else. We only can sort of hear the murmurs, but we listen attentively as witnesses, but we still can't make out what's being said, who's being said, only that they're somehow trapped. And while there are representational images, as it were, scratched into the metal, uh, it's not a coherent narrative. And I'm wondering how you, as an artist, are sort of suspended between, on the one hand, this desire to represent the suffering of others, and in some cases, uh, a sense that conventional representation is inadequate to the extraordinary, deep, and profound task of calling forth those who have suffered. So again, there seemed to be a distinction between the highly representational, specific, extremely graphic image of a rape that is about to happen, and then a very different kind of maneuver in the metallic sculpture piece. I'd love to hear more of your thoughts on that. Thanks.